RGB, and we also have RGBA, right? We can use both of them. So colors can be defined by using color name, hexadecimal code, and RGB. And I think I already explained you color name and hexadecimal. We already discussed about those two things. Actually, you can also define color gradients. So background, foreground, you can define color gradients also. Those I will show you. So linear gradient, radial gradients. So gradient colors also you can configure. Color name and hexadecimal color code. These two things already we discussed. Color name defines general color names. So actually I will give an overview. So color name. So color name,
okay.
Color names. Actually, generally CSS supports 16 million colors. Actually. And standard color names are few. We don't have much colors. So you can directly apply the color shade. So you can directly define the color name or color shade name actually. Shade name. That means syntactically color name, color shade name means you can just define as some heading, and you can say color as green. That is the color name. So, or you can simply put a paragraph. So, and here you can say color as light green. That is shade name actually. You can define in this way. Depends on your requirement. Color names already we are using in various occasions and we know them. How to define the color names and configure the color names, we already know that. Actually, we have hexadecimal color code. So we have hexadecimal color code. Hexadecimal color code already we discussed at this point also, but detailedly we will see now. Actually, the primary colors are three: red, green, and blue. These are the primary colors. Red, green, blue are the primary colors. So all colors are derived from RGB, red, green, and blue. All are derived from the primary colors only. So hexadecimal allows to define multiple color shades actually. It will allows you to define multiple color shades, and usually hexadecimal have combination of 3 or 6 characters with prefix hash. 3 or 6 characters with prefix hash. So actually hexadecimal number system, usually hexadecimal number system is a 16 base actually. 16 base number system actually. And in that 16 base number system, actually we use 16 different colors, values actually, 16 different values to mix and create a new color actually. To mix and create a color, we have to use 16 different values. And hexadecimal color code. Decimal color code uses. So hexadecimal color code uses the values. What are the values used by hexadecimal color code? It uses 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 7, 8, 9, and A, B, C, D, E, F. So that means 0 to F. It will use 0 to F. And actually, you know that 0, so 0 is minimum, and F is maximum. So minimum and maximum. And color code have 3 places or 6 places other than hash actually. So color code usually have 3 or 6 places. Color code have 3 or 6 places. 6 places other than hash. So, and if it is 3 places, if it is 3, then it will be hash RGB, red, green, blue. So red value, green value, and blue value. You have to define it. So are red, green, and blue values. That means red, green, and blue value have only one place. So we have only one place for red, green value. And RGB value can be between 0 to F. Can be 0 to F. That means syntactically how you define. So hash, so it can be like, so 0F0, like this. It can be like hash, so it can be like hash FFF. It can be like that. So it depends on what the color you need. So you can configure that 3 color shades. You can define 3 color shades. So that's how we can configure. So how you put the colors here. Suppose you want to define a color. So let's close all these. Let's just put colors. And here I am defining the color shades. Okay. So background, head, style. Okay. And we have the body section. And just for the body, I will apply some background. So the body and background color, we are using hash. And we are defining the background color as some 00F. That is the blue color. Because first value is red, second value is green, third value is blue. Red, green are 0 and blue is full, high, F. That is the highest one. Suppose if I am mixing red and blue, then it will get this pink. If I am mixing red and so green, so red and green, so sorry, blue and green, then it will be this color. So the colors combinations you can mix with different colors and define the colors. So that is 3 value. You can use the range actually. That means suppose this is the body background color, and I define here suppose so 00. That means it will be blue color. Okay, that is the blue color. And here I am configuring. So this is 0. So that is obviously black. All are 0. And I defined. So this is F. That means this will be now green color. And red, I am defining A. Then red color will be little bit light. So because red you can define from 0. Suppose I say DF, then it will be little more. So suppose FF, then it will be like yellow. We are increasing or decreasing the shade. So and by using this, we are increasing or decreasing the shade. So the combinations I already given you. We discussed this in HTML itself. One simple point we learned. So this is just one more time detail we are discussing that. If it is an 6 digit, so then what we have to use is So if it is six places, then it will be hash red, green, and blue. Red, green, blue. If it is six places, it will be red, green, and blue. That means two places for red, green, and blue. Then you can define here. So this is 00, that is for red, and FF, that is for green, and 00, that is for blue. So that is how we can configure the color. We can get more shades. So when you are configuring with the 2 digits, we can get more shades. So syntactically, that is also same. So this already we discussed in the concept of working with our HTML. Here, one more thing is RGB color code. That is extra here. Actually, RGB is nothing but, so the method RGB. RGB is a method. RGB is used to define RGB colors, and it is a combination of red, green, and blue. And in RGB method, the values. So for every color, so can range from 0 to 255 only. 0 to 255. That means the red value, green value, blue value. That means red 0 to 255. Green, you can give 0 to 255. And blue, so we can give 0 to 255. That means syntactically, you can define the color like this, RGB. So you can define RGB, and red value 0, green value 0, blue value 255. That is the blue value. How to get the blue value? That is the maximum blue value. This is for blue, it gets the blue value. Suppose I want red, RGB 255, that is the red, 0 and 0. So this is the red value. That's how we mix the colors. So with RGB, that means in the background, we can write the method RGB. RGB is expecting 3 values. Red value is 255, green value is 0, blue value is 0. That means it will be background red. Suppose I am changing to 100 or 250. That means it will be little light red. So I say it's some 200. It will be little more darker here. If I say suppose 100, then it will be growing darker in the red. Red darker. So that means bright darker is 255, right? That is 250. I'm mixing the color 100. This is so mix of red and green. And blue also 100. Then it will get you this color. And it will get that color and display the color. You can mix the colors with combination, but every color range will be 255. You can see in MS Paint. Suppose you go to MS Paint, edit colors will be there. You see here, so red value, green value, blue value is there. You mix one color. Suppose I am selecting a color. I'm mixing a color. So I'm mixing a color, right? Like this. This color. And see, red is 250, green is 135, blue is 184. So we can get that colors and we can use the colors. 250, 135, 184. 250, 135, and 135, and 184, and 184. So that will get you the color that you have seen in MS Paint. So this color will come to the body and apply. We can mix the colors by using that color shade. So that is red green combination, red green blue combination that values from 255. Here one more option is there. So we can also use We can also use RGBA, actually, RGBA. So this is red, green, so and blue and alpha. We have alpha. Alpha is transparent. Alpha is transparent. That means alpha is for opaque, transparent. So that means so it can be applied from 0 to 1. It can be applied from 0 to 1. Opaque 0 to 1. That means you can say that it ranges from 0.0 to 1.0. That is the range. So that means 1.0 is 1.0 is not opaque. It is not opaque. So that means so you can define transparency. You can define 1.0 is max. That's how we can configure RGBA. Transparency you can give. For example, you see now, this is red color. I want to apply red color. So when you are applying the red color, so transparency is required. Suppose I show here, so background color is this. And suppose you will see it better if I keep a background. So background image URL. Later I will tell you images and all. So here we have images. So in that, so we have some shoe.jpg. Okay, you can see background, some images there. On that you want to put some box. There is a div here. So some box. And for this div, so we are applying border as 2 pixel, border as 2 pixel, solid, and black. Okay, black, and we defined as background color. So background color, and we defined as red. If I am using like this, and it is having width some 200 and height also 200. Okay, you can see that the box is like this. The box is like this. So suppose margin auto. Okay, I kept that margin auto. You see, this is the box, and it is 300 width and height. Now red color is not transparent. So in the background, what you have, it is not visible properly because red is solid color. Then what I can do is here I can apply RGBA. Red value is 255.
Hello.
Green is 0. Blue is 0. And this will get a solid red color, but we want transparency 0.3. That is the red transparency. You can see red transparent will be there. Opaque. You can see through that color. So that is transparency. 0.4, it will make little darker. 0.6, it will make little darker. And max 0.9, it will make more darker. So you can change it bright, light, you can make it transparent. That is what opaque is. That means you can keep transparent. You can keep transparent color. So that you can define by using RGBA. So that is alpha channel, right? So that will make the transparency, so opaque. So 1 is max and 0 is minimum. This is how we can use RGBA colors, right? So RGBA color codes, right? How do we define them? Now, actually, when you are defining the colors and configuring the colors, we can also define color gradients also. We can also define color gradients. Gradients, shades, mixture, like we have CSS gradients. Generally, actually gradients allow multiple colors and their transitions. multiple colors and transitions. Actually, gradients can be two types. We have linear gradient, linear gradients. We have linear gradients. Linear gradients usually have a direction left, right, up, and down. So down, actually, that is the linear gradients. We have radial gradients. These radial gradients can have from center. So how to apply them? Let's see. That means how we can configure so linear gradients. Gradients. Actually, linear gradients are nothing but linear gradients usually colors from various directions. So it defines colors for various directions actually. Directions like left, right, up, and down. Directions you can configure, and you have to define. So you can configure by using the method linear gradient. linear gradient, that is the method. It is used to configure the gradient colors. So it needs a combination. It needs a combination of colors. Let's see here how we can define the combination. So get the combination. So linear gradients are nothing but usually, let's see, suppose in this box, we have to get the gradient colors for this box. Gradient colors for this box. Body background I will remove. Okay. So now the color, so should use linear gradient. Linear color is using linear gradient. Linear gradient. Linear gradient is expecting the values. Linear gradient is expecting the values. So what are the values for linear gradient to define? So the values for linear gradient to define. So I am using the linear gradient. And remember, linear gradients cannot be defined through color directly. That is very important. Actually, linear gradient will not support, actually gradients will not support for colors. That is the point you need to know. Gradients are applied to any element as image, not as color. That is very important because it's a mixture of color shades. For example, I said background color as red. That means you can see that box background color is red. So height is 200, width is 400. The box background color is red. Now we have to apply gradient. Then we have to use background. Actually, we have to use background image. Background image uses a linear gradient. Image uses a linear gradient, not background colors. Now we have to define the color. One is red color, another one is yellow color. I am writing a combination of red and yellow. Linear gradient, red and yellow. You can use any number of colors, not only two colors. You see, it will get this color gradient shade. That is the gradient colors. So you can configure the gradient. So you can define the gradient. So you can use, so suppose I said red, yellow, and green. I'm defining the shade here, red, yellow, and green. Three colors will come. You can use the color shades, color combinations. So color combinations. So this is the gradient. That means how you configure the gradient, linear gradient. So syntactically, how you define, we have to write as linear gradient. Linear gradient is defined with background images, right? Background image. So we are using a background image, and here we are writing linear gradient. Linear gradient. gradient. And here we are defining the colors. We have so color 1 and we have color 2, so color 3 you can define, so on. That is how we define linear gradient. So this is an example for linear gradient, how you applied a linear gradient color. We have to apply through image. Suppose I am not giving any background color, so background color is removed, and you can see background color doesn't matter. You need only background image. So we don't need any background color, so we need just background image for that to define. And gradients have several directions. You can use gradient direction. Gradient actually gradient uses various directions. Like gradient directions can be to right, it can be to right, it can be to bottom, so it can be like to left, so it can be like to top, and it can be like to bottom left, so like to bottom right, to top right, so to top right, like to top left. Like this you can use gradient directions actually. So that means top to bottom, bottom to top, different directions here we can configure. So that means how to write that? Actually, when you are defining, you can write the linear gradients. Here, before the colors, you can write here. Before the colors, you can write here as, so here we can define two. To right, I am writing to right. So to right, and we are defining red, green, and yellow. Towards the right, to right, you have to use to right. Then you can see right side will come. So previously it was horizontal, now it is vertical. Towards the right, so red, yellow, and green. Towards the right. And to, to I am defining as a top right, and it will be in top right direction, this direction. Towards top right, it will go diagonally, it will go top right. So bottom, top right directions you can give, so that you can configure. So top left, okay, it will give top left direction like this. It will change in this way. You can change the gradients, you can configure the gradient directions, and these are all the gradient directions you can define. So this is linear gradients. You can configure the gradient direction. And actually, when you are configuring the gradient, you can also define gradient by angle, by degrees also you can define, right? So that means linear gradients, gradient color can be defined. Color can be defined by using angle. By using an angle, you can define. By using angle also. So, and usually angle is defined. Angle is defined in degrees. You have to define in degrees. That means syntactically how you configure is. So we set a background image. So background image. Background image. So it uses linear gradient, and you can define, so 60 degree like this, 60 degree, so red and yellow, something like this. So you can define in which direction you want. Gradient can be defined with multiple colors. Gradient can be defined with this, and you can see that. So this is gradient direction, background, yeah, image. You see here, so we are defining the gradient, so with degree. That means here we can write how many degrees. Suppose I said 45 degrees, so 45 degree, and you can see that it changes to 45 degrees. Suppose I change it to 60 degree, so 60 degree, you can see it changes to 60 degree. So if I say 90 degree, and you can see it will be vertical now, 90 degree. You can change it. You can give a negative value, so minus 90 degree, then it will be like this. So I said minus 40 or 60 degrees, minus 60 degrees. It will be in this direction. You can change the angle of that gradient. So by using degrees, you can configure that by using degrees. So that is an example here. So gradient can be defined by using the degree. Actually, you can make the gradient can be transparent also. Gradient can be transparent, so can be transparent. So you can make gradients transparent also. How gradient can be transparent? So actually you can define that. So by using gradient can be defined by using RGBA also. That means actually what you have to do is, so you have to define define color using RGBA, then it will be transparent. That means suppose red color. So I want red color little bit transparent, red color or green color little bit transparent. Then what we can do is, instead of green color, so don't write the color. So here you use RGBA. So that is for the green. We are using for green, we are defining RGBA, right? We are configuring red, green, blue value. And usually it contains RGBA contains values like so 0 like 255, or so 255 and 0, that is the green color, and the shade for that is 0.5. That means transparent, or 0.3 more transparent. And you can apply that RGB. You can see the light transparent shade will come. For green, for red, you can make that transparent. So you can apply that by using this. So that is gradients. You can define by using RGBA. So this is an example for every color can be defined with RGBA to make it transparent, gradient transparency. And actually gradient can even repeat also. So gradient
ସେ ହେଲମେଟ୍ ଚେକ୍
can
କଲାନ
repeat.
ନା ଏଇ ଯୋଉ ଆକୁ
Gradient can
ରିମୋଟ୍ଟା
repeat. So we can make the gradient repeat. So for that you have to use the method. So you can use the method. We have a method called repeating linear gradient. Gradient. This is used for repeating the color. You can define the color in percentage also. Suppose I said red and I said yellow. So yellow 10%, I define like this. So green 20%, I define like this. You can set the gradients. So with the percentage of shade colors, so also you can configure them. So repeating linear gradients you can define. Actually, linear gradients we are using. We can use, instead of linear gradient, we have repeating linear gradient. In that we have red, and red is full, and yellow is 10%, yellow 10%. And we have green as 20%. And what is repeating gradient? Actually repeating gradient will repeat in this way. That means the gradient is going to repeat. Instead of showing one, it will be repeating. So you can repeat the gradients in this way. Suppose I defined as here red, green, blue. I am defining the value here as suppose 90 degree and red, green, yellow gradients. It will be like this. Vertically it is configured. You can change in any specific angle, and we can configure in that particular angle. And that is the gradients, how you can use. So that is the repeating gradient actually. So repeating gradient will repeat the gradient inside that container. So from begin to end it will repeat. and in which direction you want it. So you can configure in that direction. If you don't use repeat, it will be only one gradient applied. Repeating will repeat that gradient to that inside that box. It will apply up to that. And if you know this, the same for radial gradient also. That means radial gradients also same. Radial gradient is also same. Actually, only one point is it sets effects towards center, effects towards center. So generally how you define this is also same. So syntactically how you configure is, so we use a background image. So background image, and it uses radial gradient. And we have colors. We have red, we have yellow, we have green. So it is towards the center. Actually, gradients will have shape. The radial gradients will have shape. So shape, you can define shape like we have circle. So we have square, like gradients will be there. You can define, so like square, like diamond. So like this options, gradient shapes will be there. We can apply the shapes. That means generally how you define is syntactically when you are applying that. So background as a radial gradient. We can apply the shape for that. Shape is nothing but just we can write as circle. It will be in a circle shape. So gradient will be defined. And this also having so same like linear. So you can repeat radial gradient. And for that what we have to do is we have to use the method repeating radial gradient. This is the method we have to use. So if you know linear, this is also simple, nothing much. So you can apply this also here. So I said radial gradient now. I am defining, so the color red, so red and yellow. That is the radial gradient, red and yellow. And usually red and yellow radial gradient will be like this, towards the center actually. So I'm writing here like circle. So I'm writing like circle. Circle is the gradient. You can see a circle will come. I will add one more color. So green. So then you can see a circle gradient will come. So this is towards the center. We can configure towards the center. So this also supports RGBA, percentage of colors. Everything is same. Only the placement is different. That means towards the center it will apply the gradient. So you can change the repeating gradients also, you can apply. So percentages you can configure. You can have a repeating gradient also. So that means here you can use repeating radial gradient. Repeating radial gradient requires the percentage of colors. It will repeat that. That means you can configure in this way. So we can use repeating radial gradient. Okay. In that we are defining as red and yellow. So that is 10%, and green as 20%. And you can see that repeating gradient, so towards the center will be like this. That's how we can apply the gradients and configure the gradients. It depends on so how you want the color, but gradients cannot be applied with color. They can be applied with image. So with image, this is an example for that. So these are colors. So you have color names. So you have color codes. You have RGB, hexadecimal. You have RGB, and you have gradients also. Currently, we are applying for background. You can apply for borders. You can apply for any content. It's not like you have to apply only for background. You can configure for various actually. So these are basic colors, how you can maintain and configure the colors, right? How do we define the colors? So next important after understanding the colors, actually, you need to know about the units, how you can configure the units and define the units. Units is very much important. So units and rules are very much important to understand. So when you are dealing with uh, colors and effects, so these units will play the key role in defining the size, height, width, how to configure them. It depends on that, right? So let's see what are actually the units and how do we use the units. So these are all the colors. So CSS colors you can define in several ways. We can configure in these several ways. Now how the CSS units will work? Let's see. Units means height, width, how you configure them. What are the units available? CSS units are very important. So basically, so units define size and position, actually, and you can configure size with height and width. So height and width are used for configure the size actually, and you can configure position. So position with the x-axis and y-axis, with x-axis and y-axis. That means x-axis and y-axis, y-axis and z-axis also, axis and z-axis. That means actually height and width are size and xy axis are a position. And if you want to change position or change size of any object, you need units actually. And the CSS units are categorized categorized into categorized into two groups actually. Two groups. We have two types of units. One is absolute length units. Another one is relative length units. Two types of units are there: absolute length units and relative length units. What is difference is actually absolute length units are nothing but absolute length units are not related to any other element. They are independent, they are not related. That means they are not related, they are not relative to anything else, or generally. So that means if they are not relative to anything else, so then known as absolute length units, absolute length units. So known as absolute length units. Relative length units means they are related to existing element. Means parent element height is 10 and child element is 5. If parent element is changed to 20, child will be changed to 10 now. Those are relative. Absolute means they are not related to anything. So that means these are not affected by other elements. These units are not affected by other elements. They are not affected by other elements. So affected by other elements actually, other elements, they are not affected by other elements. And what are the absolute units we have? What is the measurement? Size, height, width, how much? How we can define the units? Let's see how we can configure the units. Actually, we have unit and we have name and we have equivalent to. So that means it is equal to how much. So these are the units. So what are the basic units and what is it is equivalent to? So let's see the basic units. So we have cm. Cm is for, this is for centimeters. This is for centimeters. Centimeters. And actually, centimeters, right? Actually, in CSS, in CSS, so centimeter, 1 centimeter means, actually 1 centimeter means it is equal to 96 pixels divided by 2.54. That means approximately it will be 37 pixels. 37 pixels. That is how browser calculates the centimeters and shows your content. So 1 centimeter means 37 pixels. You can define the size as 37 pixels. So mm means millimeters, right? So millimeters, meters, millimeters. Millimeters, 1 is actually equal to 1 by 10th, 1 by 10th of 1 centimeter. 1 by 10th of 1 centimeter. That means 10th position of 1 centimeter. So that means it will be like 3.7, like 1 centimeter. So why you have different units? Because sometimes we need to adjust the size very less. With small units, we need to adjust. If I change 1 centimeter to 2 centimeter, it will adjust more. Then between 1 centimeter and 2 centimeter, we want millimeters actually. That's why we need these type of units actually. You can use Q. Q is for quarter meter. Quarter millimeters actually. Millimeters. Meters. Quarter millimeters. Q use for quarter millimeters. Quarter millimeters is nothing but 1/4 millimeter is equal to 1 by 40th. So 1 by 40th. So 1 by 40th of 1 centimeter. 40 times of 1 centimeter. It is more or less than millimeter. And if I give in is for inches. Inches. That means it will be inches. And 1 inch in is equal to 2.54 centimeters actually. 2.5 centimeters means approximately 96 pixels. 96 pixels. So that is the size. You can give in centimeters, millimeter. If you want more lengthy, with less units, you want more lengthy, then you can go with inches. You can go with inches. PC is for picas. Actually, 1 pica is equal to 1 by 6th. 1 by 6th of 1 inch. 1 inch actually. 1 by 6th of 1 inch. 1 by 6 times of 1 inch. So that is picas. We have PT. PT is points actually. PT is point. And 1 point is equal to 1 by 72nd. 72nd, right? 70th, 72nd of 1 inch actually, of 1 inch. Very small, very small. And we have PX. PX is for pixels. Pixels. And actually 1 pixel means 1 by 96th of 1 inch. So 96th of 1 inch. Of 1 inch. Very small. That means according to your requirement, you need to adjust the width. The question is why you have so many units? Because sometimes we need to adjust based on screen resolution. Sometimes we need to adjust based on the width and height of the existing contents. So sometimes we need to adjust only very small point. Only 1 point we want to adjust. We cannot use a centimeter again. So centimeter will give more than 1 point. So that's the reason we have to use all these different types of units. Relative to the situation, we have to deal with them, define and use with. That means actually, suppose I am defining the height and width. So suppose I configured the height and width. Suppose I am just using. So this is div. So this is para 1. and this is another div. This is para 2. And here I am defining, so ID as P1. So ID as P1. Okay, para 1. So and second one ID as P2. P2. Here we are configuring. So P1. So P1, how much we want the height and width to define. I am giving here, suppose 1 centimeter. That means a font size 1 centimeter. And 1 centimeter for that paragraph, it will be like this actually. That is 1 centimeter. Font size is 1 centimeter. So that means, sorry, hash P1, right? It will be 1 centimeter. Now actually 1 centimeter is nothing but, as per the units, 1 centimeter is equal to 37 pixels. So I will try for the paragraph 2, hash P2, font size as 37 pixels. That means it is equal to 1 centimeter, and you can see it is equal to 1 centimeter. But what is advantage is, I want to keep it a little bit less than that. Then I will go, suppose 35 pixels, then it will be a little bit smaller. 36 pixels, so little bit more smaller. So that means we can adjust every point clearly. We can adjust to every point clearly. Less. Directly if I go as a, so as a here, 0.5 centimeter, 0.5 centimeter, it will be reduced to half actually. So 0.6 centimeter. So that means it will increase little bit. 0.7 centimeter. So it will increase a little bit. 0.8 centimeter. It will increase a little bit. 9 centimeter. It will increase like this. But more than centimeter, one more point I want that I cannot adjust. So then you can do that in pixels now. Pixels will adjust very less fractions and it will adjust more fractions. It depends on your requirement how you define. So either you define in centimeters or define in pixels, define in points, because when you want to adjust large space, then more space, then you can go with directly points. Less space, then you have to go with picas. So pick points and pixels. These are very less. More minor are pixels only. More minor are pixels only. That means pixels are very less. So adjustment you want to do, then go with pixels. More, then you can go with inches, you can go with centimeters. These are all the units. These are absolute units actually. These are absolute units. So now we have relative units also actually. Relative units are nothing but, so relative units means when you define these relative units, they will change automatically according to the parent element. Suppose here, these are not relative currently. Suppose I changed this to 2 centimeter. Now this is not affected. This is not affected. That will not be affected. But relative units means it will affect the existing. That means parent and child, like hierarchy. That means it is relative to the existing contents. Then it will adjust according to the existing contents. We call them as relative units. Usually we call them as relative units. So relative units are used for adjusting the content based on the existing parent, child or adjacent. Based on that they will adjust. For that we need to understand what are the relative length units. So what are the relative length units? Length units. How do we configure the relative length units? Actually these are nothing but, so these are related to other contents, other contents in the page, other contents in the page, contents in page. Actually the size of any element can be determined based on its parent, child or adjacent elements. Based on that they will change. That means the advantage is nothing but advantage is the element size will change, size and the position will change when parent is changed. When parent is changed, that is what important. It will automatically affect it. These are all relative units. And what are the basic relative units we are having? We have to deal with them with an example how we can manage the relative units. That means unit, so relative to. Actually, what are the relative units available and how do we deal with these relative units? In the relative units, we have EM. EM is one relative unit. So we have EX. EX is one relative unit. So we have CH is another relative unit. So we have REM, that is also a relative unit. These are relative units. So we have uh, LN. LN is a relative unit that is related to line height. We have VW, that is the viewport relative units are there. View width actually, that is VH, that is related to viewport height. So we have V min, so viewport minimum. So we have like V max, viewport max. These are relative units. Now we need to understand what is the purpose of these relative units, how they actually work, what is the purpose. That means actually it depends on parent and child hierarchy. It depends on parent and child hierarchy. So suppose if I say EM, that means usually the concept of EM is nothing but, so it can change the size of parent. So it uses the size of parent and applies to the child. So it uses the size of parent and applies to child, that's how EM works actually. That's how it is going to deal with the EM. So parent based on that, so child will apply. Actually, suppose you see, so we have paragraphs P1, P2. So suppose divs are there. Suppose I given here as body. So body font size I defined as 20 pixel body font size. Okay, body font size is 20 pixel. That is ready. Okay, fine. Means all will be 20 pixel. Now the P1, P1 actually, so hash P1. That means paragraph 1. It should be two times. It should be two times the body. That means I will give here font size as 2 em now. 2 em. That means two times the body size. Then paragraph 1 will be 40. This is 20. This is 40. And observe carefully. If I change this to 30, body size to 30, automatically this will increase. That means that paragraph will increase automatically. If I change it to 10, then it will change. That means this size depends on the body size. Depends on the body size. If body size is 10 pixel, then paragraph will be 20 pixel. Suppose I am giving hash P2. So font size as 20 pixel, and observe carefully, it should be same. But observe, if I say 20 pixel to font size, you see that this is affected, this is not affected. Why? Because you are using here absolute unit. So that means it will always 20 pixel only. Here you are using relative unit. That means it will change according to the body. These kind of units are called relative units. They will change according to that. So EM is for based on parent, how it can adjust based on parent. Similarly, what is EX, what is CH, what is REM, these we need to understand. That we will see in our next session, right? Tomorrow we will continue with this. So in the tomorrow session, we will discuss about, so what are the other relative units and how to deal with them, right? Then we can design some effects and options, huh? Right?